Go ahead.
Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake and then go back home. There was, nothing that was going to be sexual involved because I'm not like that. Well, obviously the text messages and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was all that was.
Throughout history, there has been the archetype of the village idiot, a person who is infamous in their small community for being a buffoon. In a small village, you will have a number of professions, such as the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and the guy whose primary duty is to take dumps in the public square. The village idiot is a stock character that most likely emerged from mentally ill people at a time when people knew nothing about abnormal psychology. People who screamed randomly in public, flashed the farmers as they plowed the fields, and tried to copulate with mules were assumed to be possessed by the evil spirits. I suppose mental illnesses are kind of like demons in the sense that they're tormenting voices in your head that you can't control. In most cases, the village idiot was, well, an idiot. But in some cases, this proto-lolcow was actually brilliant in a bizarre way. The cynical philosopher Diogenes lived an ascetic lifestyle without proper housing. He mocked the norms of his fellow Greeks. This was despite the fact that he was a member of a wealthy family. Instead of choosing power and wealth, he chose a life of simplicity, begging for food while he preached his cynic philosophy, and occasionally fapping in public. When Alexander the Great met him in Corinth, seeking wisdom, according to the story, Alexander asked Diogenes what he wished for. Diogenes asked him to move a little bit to the side so he wasn't blocking the sunlight. During the Middle Ages, you had the court jester archetype, who was usually very smart but played the role of an idiot for entertainment. They used absurdity to mock those in positions of power without facing the repercussions in which serious people would be for, say, mocking the king and his nobles. In sharp contrast to the village idiot, the court fool was well aware that they were, well, a fool. And in many ways, this fool was wiser than anyone in the king's court. Fast forward to the modern day, and we have vastly different technology and social structures, yet so many of the same social elements have been fairly consistent. The comedian is the modern version of the court jester, with the ability to point out truths others can't because he is a clown who makes people laugh. George Bernard Shaw stated that if you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh, otherwise they will kill you. The most noticeable example of this was the arrest of comedian Lenny Bruce during the 1950s under obscenity charges. In many ways, Lenny Bruce was both a village idiot and, more importantly, a court jester. He had many run-ins with the law due to his drug addiction and eventually died from an overdose on a toilet, an honor which he shares with Elvis and Catherine the Great. Nonetheless, his comedic genius and his unjust arrest made him an icon of not only comedy but also free speech. Fun fact, another person arrested on that night was the comedian George Carlin. However, for every enchanted clown like Lenny Bruce, you had plenty of other clowns who didn't accomplish much of anything other than making asses of themselves in public squares. The age of mass media during the second half of the 20th century would have numerous celebrities who were known for being buffoons in their personal lives, but nonetheless were celebrated for their great contributions, such as Keith Moon and Dennis Rodman. These people were well known for their antics, pretty much just as well known for them as they were for their genuine immense talent and skill. Sane people tend to not dress up like this, by the way. During the 2000s, before the mass use of social media, we had reality TV, lolcows on shows like Jersey Shore, and movies like Jackass. By the late 2000s, there would be the rise of social media. Unlike old media, which had gatekeepers, new media had democratized access to influence and even fame. In many cases, this led to very talented people sharing their skills, insight, knowledge, and craftsmanship with the world on a scale which was not possible with the old-school gatekeepers of book publishers, Hollywood producers, and television executives. Social media had democratized fame. Democracy allows everybody to have a say. But let's just Give it to the greatest clown of all time, George Carlin, who said, "Think about how stupid the average person is, and then realize that half of them are even stupider than that." The rise of the internet saw not only an explosion of brilliant people in the digital public square, but also an explosion of lolcows, and just about everyone in between. Now, let's just break down the average definition of a lolcow according to, well, the internet. It's a derogatory version of internet slang, which means a person who is eccentric or foolish, and that can be exploited for the amusement of others. Gaming content, for example, provided low-effort content, which could be mass-produced by any moron with a functioning set of fingers. This led to characters like Darkside Phil and Wings of Redemption, who would have Pepsi and Dorito-infused meltdowns over the hate comments in their chats. One of the best ways to become a lolcow is to give in to the negative emotions spurred by trolls. If these guys had kept their cool, they would have defeated the trolls. But since the trolls got the reaction they were looking for, these guys became some of the earliest internet lolcows.
I'm just trolling you, chill.
Hey, whatever. I hope your family dies in an automobile wreck.
What? Who the fuck says that?
I say that because you're a fucking piece of shit. You're a human equivalent of a piece of shit.
It's a video game. What the fuck?
The most famous or infamous lolcow of all was / Christine Weston Chandler, also known as Chris Chan. She is the most well known for creating the character Sonichu, a portmanteau of Sonic the Hedgehog and Pikachu. He is also well known for allegedly fingering his elderly mother and telling the cops about it. There is really nothing I can say about Chris Chan which hasn't already been said. There are entire documentaries on YouTube made about Chris Chan, which are longer than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm going to quote the Sonichu wiki to, let's just say, narrate one of the most infamous moments of his life. Quote, "On March 19th, 2009, Chris bought Bob to a date with Emily, his newest love interest. In now a legendary moment, Marvin, wearing a pickle costume, appeared and asked to watch the movie Watchmen with Emily. Emily accepted, with Chris confusingly asking why he was wearing a pickle costume. Humorously, a random woman approached and asked the pickle man about his costume, and when she left, Chris began to rage at the pickle man, calling him out as a troll. Eventually, Emily and the pickle man left together, leading Chris to loudly yell in the middle of the mall. Chris Chan is perhaps the most thoroughly recorded person in human history due to his absurd life predicaments combined with his need to broadcast every element of his life. Chris Chan, along with other lolcows, would spur the rise of controversial websites like the Image Board, 4chan, the Wikipedia parody Encyclopedia Dramatica, and most controversially, Kiwi Farms. In some cases, this devolved into full-blown bullying and harassment towards people who were only quasi-deserving of the ridicule. One of the most notorious cases of this was of Joseph Strickland, under the online name Joseph8276, also by his self-proclaimed title, The Beast.
Now, girls, this status is absolutely correct. You have to stop being so picky. Stop being picky. Looks are gonna fade away after a while, girls. You need to realize that. And then he says, and lower your fucking standards. You might find somebody. Sure, they might not be the best looking ones, but hey, looks fade away after a while. Yes, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Because you got to lower your standards, girls. Stop being so picky. Stop going out with trash guys. If you want a good guy, find the ones that aren't so attractive. Give them a chance. Lower your standards.
This kid from the Canadian Maritimes would rant about how supermodels preferred bad boys over beastly nice guys like him. He would become an early icon of the budding incel movement, falling for sextortion pranks in between his rants against Lil Wayne and other people for not having enough quote-unquote swag. If there are any ladies interested in nice guys who are also beasts, who look like this, make sure to message the beast for a good time. He would later fall off the radar due to an arrest for kitty corn. I miss the days when village idiots just pissed in the town well. YouTube in particular would bring about a garden variety of lolcows, oftentimes tied to content fads. One of the most notable lolcowish fads was mukbang, or mukbang, which initially involved cute Korean girls eating food in front of an audience of men whose only interaction with women involved paying women to slurp up noodles. They couldn't get any girl to slurp their noodles, so they had to use buckwheat noodles as a replacement. This would spur Western mukbangers, who ate copious amounts of food in front of a lonely audience while they discussed YouTube drama and true crime. This too developed into lolcowdom with figures like Amberlyn Reed.
My Popeyes. I'm just gonna get this out of the way for now. I eat my Popeyes in a certain way. So I take off the
and Feudy Beauty.
Sleep is so weird these days that, you know what, anytime I'm in water or around water, I get super sleepy.
I can definitely see the foodie element, but I have yet to see the beauty element.
So I thought I would just do a video for you guys because I'm eating my cheat day.
Lolcows like this produced an entire cottage industry of YouTubers and image board posters who created content specifically to cover nearly every aspect of the lolcow's life. In the past, amateur historians wanted to study the ruins of Troy, but today the chroniclers of the past would rather focus on the scatological sex life of a woman who could use her fat folds as a musical instrument. One outlier from this group was Nikocado Avocado, who, unlike other mukbangers and lolcows, was purposely absurd, even parroting other mukbangers like Amberlyn Reed. Nikocado Avocado had mastered the YouTube algorithm with the use of Oscar-tier meltdowns and romantic thumbnails which included him and his partner making out over Big Macs. His initial skinny vegan content and violin skills didn't get too many views. This changed when he decided to eat the mass of a Jeep Wrangler in Takis and ramen noodles. During each of his videos, he would consume the weekly caloric output pumped out by the Qatari Liquefied Natural Gas Corporation. But what came out wasn't worth as much as a barrel of oil, unless you count reused hydrogenated vegetable oil. Nikocado Avocado eventually would release a video of him having lost all the weight. He had made tons of money eating the organic input of a hog farm, while eventually having enough money to retire in luxury. A work of true genius. If anything, he wasn't the real lolcow, we were the lolcows for falling for it. While some creators transitioned from lolcow to brilliant trickster, other creators eventually had the reverse trajectory. Boogie2988 was one of the biggest YouTubers from the early days of the mid to late 2000s, loved for a combination of his serious gaming reviews as well as his character Francis, which was meant to be an actual parody of a lolcow. Francis was a caricature of internet neckbeards who devoted their lives to World of Warcraft and who drank more Mountain Dew than water. Over the course of time, it turned out that the lovable Boogie was actually the character, and the Taco Bell guzzling mentally ill Francis was the real guy.
Yes.
Why don't you just tell the audience?
I don't want to destroy a human life. Because I don't want to destroy someone's fucking life! Because I don't want to destroy somebody's life! Because I don't want to destroy somebody's life! Because I don't want to destroy somebody's life!
Okay.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
No, I don't! I'll
you just
destroy
sat
mine
here.
all day. I'll destroy
I
mine all
fucking-
day.
you
I'll
sat
destroy
here-
mine all day. And my dad is dead, and my mom is dead. I'll talk about those
Yeah,
pieces of shit till they fucking rot.
Yeah, but
I will
Chad
not
and
talk
Desi
about
aren't dead.
Still fucking alive. I will not. We've talked about it. We made an agreement, and I'm not going to do that for internet clout. I'm not going to do that so the Keemstar can jerk off to it. No, thank you. We're not here
Yes, yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah,
audience
yeah.
to get off
We
on
understand that you talk
destroying
loud.
somebody's
That doesn't
fucking
mean
life.
shit.
Your goddamn internet clout. This is not a topic I will cover for internet clout.
Nobody's talking about that copper. Here's what I'm trying to talk to you about, Mr. Talk Loud.
Later.
You're on a lot of medicine, Boogie. Is any of those medicines an SSRI?
After numerous controversies, including quasi-faking cancer, Boogie's last relevance is being a recurring character on the lolcow podcast, which he has shared with the aforementioned Wings of Redemption. After all, these two did have a boxing match in an event that was infamously referred to as lolcow boxing. Check it out if you ever want to watch two piles of beef tallow collide. Another prominent fall from grace was that of iDubbbz, also known as Ian Washburn, who would run a channel mocking and ridiculing the lowbrow content of other creators during the mid-2010s, only to become a lolcow himself more recently, burning every bridge he previously had built. Despite having a multi-million subscriber YouTube channel, he now streams to an audience with a pathetic number, on par with what I get. Congrats, Ian, you managed to be as relevant as I am. I'm sure you're proud of that honor. The fascination with lolcows would also lead to the online commentary community, which chronicled the lives of these figures in a similar fashion to documentaries of more relevant figures. A documentary on Boogie 2988 will get more views than a documentary on the Emperor Cyrus the Great of Persia, or the scientist Enrico Fermi. Who cares about the great men of history when you can learn about a guy with fat folds attached to his fat folds? There would also be the rise of political lolcows. In the past, old media with its gatekeepers usually kept extremism at bay. News broadcasters like Walter Cronkite were known as some of the most trusted people in America. Walter Cronkite in particular was known for his stunning impartiality. On the rare occasions he did present his opinion, such as him coming out against the Vietnam War, his statements made a significant impact on the cultural consciousness of the nation. However, old media only allowed a very small number of people to speak on radio and television. The internet led to a democratization of news media. This sounds great, power to the people, but
because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
the internet saw the rise of political extremism promoted by algorithms, which feed netizens the content they have already consumed. This has led to polarization, increased confirmation bias, and manipulation by the propaganda campaigns of authoritarian regimes. TikTok, for example, has been used by the Chinese Communist Party to export certain narratives to sow discourse in open societies through the power of incredibly stupid opinions. One example of a political lolcow has been Alex Jones, who deserves his own video. He has promoted nearly every conspiracy theory under the sun. To be fair, we do agree with each other on one thing: llamas are cool.
You've seen Alex Jones for years tell you fluoride, and tell you about Jeffrey Epstein, and tell you about the New World Order, and fission fusion, and artificial black holes, and strangeless, and superconducting supercolliders, and other systems like cyclotrons. But you've ignored that because it's just all background. But now that I have llamas, now that I have the secret weapon, this is amazing. Here you go, my sweetie. Hey, you give your llamas fluoride? Hell no, we don't give them fluoride. I mean, that's something that really sinks in for people.
A similar form of lolcowdom emerged on Twitter and later X, with the algorithm using outrage, confirmation bias, and culture war slop to generate clicks and thereby revenue. However, with the rise of AI, we may find ourselves moving away from populist internet slop, run by lolcow outrage, to a more sane and boring one run by a technocratic AI overlord who simply corrects our misinformation to the best of its ability. Now, while AI will replace a lot of important jobs, it probably will not replace the job of the lolcow or the village idiot. We need lolcows. We need village idiots. We love them because they provide us with something that no AI overlord could ever do. They provide us with someone to look at and think, well, my life sucks and it's kind of pathetic, but at least I never got caught on film looking like this.
You tried to do the FBI, didn't work! You tried to do the police, didn't work! So instead, it resorts to the paycheck. And you got it! You got it! All my patrons have been deleted!